Welcome.
Hi.
So nice to see you all. Glad to be together in our virtual space. We'll be having some more people join us in just a moment, but gonna stick to the time. So we're gonna get as close to an hour to go a little bit over today. Hopefully that can work for everyone, but we've got an amazing agenda. Lots of great people here to share what we can do in terms of updates, what updates we do have, changing almost daily, it feels like, in terms of financial aid. And how we can best support students. So really glad to be spending some time today on this lovely Friday with all of you. I am Laura Winter with St. Louis Graduates, for those of you who I've not met, and I have the good fortune today to be presenting this workshop with my colleagues from MASFAP. That includes Melissa Finley, who is with Missouri Scholarship and Loan Foundation. She's the co-chair of St. Louis Graduates and also on the MASFAP board. And then Kayla Klein from Mizzou and Alex Miller from Stevens College. So we're grateful to have you all here. Just a few announcement things, if you will, at the beginning of our meeting. Here's our agenda. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, but I had sent this out to you before, so I'm not going to dwell much on it. We're going to do a lot of breakout groups. So if you're not familiar with those on Zoom, don't stress. There's nothing you need to do. It'll happen for you. But we think it's a great way to connect with other people instead of just sitting there watching a webinar. So we hope that you appreciate that as well. And then we're going to get into the meat of things. Leroy Wade is here to give us an update on Missouri State Aid. We're going to do a great panel discussion on updates for fall 2020 and to the extent we can, 2021. And then have a great conversation in breakout groups and smaller groups by region. And we've got some updates as well in terms of FAFSA and the ScribeScan College Fair. So these are just some housekeeping reminders. You're welcome to check out our group agreements if you would like to online, just to remind ourselves to give each other grace and space, to respect one another as we speak, and to participate as best we can. We'll all do it just as well as we can. Okay. And Ashley just reminded me I am not screen sharing, so this has happened before. There's the agenda. Sorry about that. I'm talking through it and I'm not letting you see it. And here is our housekeeping pieces, and I put our meeting agreements link into the chat box. And then the missions of our two organizations. Alex, do you want to share the mission of MASFAP real quickly?
Yeah, so MASFAP stands for Missouri Association of Student Financial Aid Personnel. It's a dynamic association dedicated to service and advocating for practitioners and users and providers of student financial aid programs. So we're statewide, and we work with high school counselors with our early awareness program to really educate and help you guys and just be a resource for you all, for your students.
Great, thank you. And St. Louis Graduates, for those of you who don't know, is a collaborative network of K-12 and higher education, youth nonprofits, business, and philanthropy, focused on eliminating equity gaps for low-income students and Black students. And while St. Louis is part of our name, most of our work is statewide and includes Southern Illinois. Today is just the beginning of a series of workshops we'll have all year for those of you who've been involved in the Professional Development Institute for the past 9 years. We are moving from in-person half-day workshops to virtual workshops like this. Every other Friday, they will be at 10 o'clock going forward, and the registration is now open for all of the fall workshops, and we invite you to join us. We are really pleased that MASFAP is partnering with us on the workshops that have to do with financial aid, which is many of them this fall. So please sign up for those workshops. And everything is because of support from the Norman J. Stepp Foundation Commerce Bank trustee. So in a moment here, you'll bear with me, we are going to move into breakout rooms. And so what I will do is you will be in a room with just maybe two or three other people. And just take a moment to introduce yourself. And if you would just share something about a story or a book or an article that you read recently that resonated with you for whatever reason. and just get to know each other for a little bit. We'll do this for about 5 minutes. At any point, you'll be asked to join the breakout room and just click on the join button. Automatically, you will get there at some point, but it goes quicker if you click join. You automatically be brought back to this main room after 5 minutes. And if you ever want to get back to the main room, you can go ahead and click to come back to it. If you end up in a room and it's just you, I will catch that and reassign you to another room at some point. Just give me a minute because it sometimes takes a second to get all done. Okay? Get to know yourselves.
I jumped back on here because no one was in my breakout room.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
No one was in mine either, so I came back.
Okay. Sorry about that. I did the best I could. It's hard to do this on the fly. So
All good, Laura.
Okay.
if you guys
Not a
want to take a
problem.
moment and wave and say hello to each other, you can do that.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Amber. Hi, Ashley. Hey, Matt. Respond to my chat or just email me, okay?
Right now, I've never done a private within a group, so I was figuring that out very quickly.
Just send me an email. That's all. You ain't even got to respond. Just send me an email.
Oh, I figured out how to do it, so I'm doing it.
Okay, cool. Laura, we know it's still quote unquote public. It's all good.
All right, let me know if you get it. If you don't, shoot me an email or let me know.
I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Janelle and Kingsley since they're on mute. So these are two of my new advisors with the WashU College Advising Core Program.
Hi, Janelle and Kingsley. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hi.
Thank you for working with our students this year.
Hi, hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, Shuma.
Hey, Ashley. So I logged off and logged back on. What did I miss?
A lot.
Oh, goodness.
We just did a quick check-in that worked better for some than for others. A little bit of a technology glitch, but we did the best we could, and everybody else just kind of smiled and waved at each other. So Gina, you're in the right place at the right time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I think for most people, it worked out fine. We had a little technology problem for others, and we just made the best of it. We're going to keep going. So that sounds like a regular day in schools, doesn't it? Want to go ahead and start with the more formal part of our agenda, and hopefully you did feel at least a little bit of connection. I'll ask Leroy Wade from the Missouri Department of Higher Education to go ahead and give us an update on Missouri State Aid. Leroy?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank
Okay.
you.
Again, appreciate the opportunity to visit with you folks and participate today. This is a really exciting meeting and being able to make some of these kinds of connections. So I really appreciate being involved. I thought I'd talk about, didn't put any slides together. I'm trying to keep my presentation short, but I really was going to cover 3 items. I touched just for a minute on legislation from the last session, primarily that related to higher education. Most of it didn't pass, but I think we can expect some of it to come back next year when the legislature comes back to town. I spend most of my time talking about the budget, how the impact that's had on our financial aid programs, and then just a minute on some of the accommodations at a very high level that we've made to our programs for during this spring, and again, looking at how that might impact the fall. So in terms of legislation, one of the pieces of legislation, let me back up, nothing that really affected higher education in any substantive way passed last year, and certainly nothing that would have impacted our state financial aid programs passed. It was kind of a bifurcated session. Early part, things got started and several bills were introduced. And then after their spring break, when they were out for a number of weeks, when they came back, it was mostly budget and then just a handful of high priority items. But in terms of legislation that was introduced in the early part of the session, one of the major ones was a FAFSA filing requirement for high school graduation. Currently, there are 3 states that have those already in place and are standing those up, Louisiana being the first. But there are about 11 or 12 other states who are introducing that kind of a proposal. Missouri is one of those, and I would expect to see that legislation come up again in the 2021 session. There are several bills related to changes to the A+ program. One of those was to make A+ the first payer instead of last payer, so they would pay before Pell. There were a couple that would expand the program into the 4-year institutions. One was kind of a generic one that would expand into the 3rd and 4th year. There were some requirements that students had to meet, but it wasn't related to study. And then there was one that was specific to teacher education, that if you were in a teacher education program and made that transfer, A+ would continue to be eligible for an A+ award. So again, I think we'll see some of those come back again. And then the last one I'll just touch on, there was an attempt, there's legislation introduced to increase the award amounts in the Access Missouri program, to increase the statutory maximums that are in that program right now. I certainly welcome that kind of an approach, but with a program that's not fully funded, it'll have kind of a limited impact, I would argue, but we'll see if that comes up again. So in terms of the budget, I'll move on to that now. Many of you know that we're facing a pretty tough economic situation. And when the legislature finished its budget work in May, the message from the budget office was that it was about $500 million out of balance. So come June, when the governor made his decisions on those bills, there were a number of vetoes and restrictions. For the Department of Higher Education, House Bill 3, that's our bill, there were about $376,000 of vetoes, and then a little over $55 million in spending restrictions. Now, the difference between those is vetoes are gone for good. They never come back unless they get appropriated in a different year. Spending restrictions are different. Those are temporary measures that are taken to balance the budget. And so there's the possibility, I think it's not a strong possibility, but there is a possibility that if the economy gets a lot better, revenues come in a lot higher, that some of those could be restored, but I wouldn't bank on any of that. So in terms of the impact of those changes, Bright Flight saw the biggest impact, certainly. It was not only appropriated less, the legislature appropriated $3.5 million less than was in the program in the prior year, but then the governor, in taking restrictions, took about another $6.5 million out of that program as well. And so we're down for the FY21 year about $10 million. That has, and most of you probably have seen something about this, we've had to reduce awards to the students in order to accommodate that situation. So I would anticipate we may seek a supplemental appropriation to try and restore that, but that's a really big if, I would say, whether it would actually get passed. So that's been the biggest impact, at least up to date, I would say. In terms of A+, while we didn't have any cuts in that program, we also did not get any increase. And on top of that, the demand for that program was higher than we had projected when we began the last fiscal year. And so we ended the year not in a really good place financially. Normally we carry over some funds to cover summer school. We weren't able to carry over any funds this year for that purpose. So we're currently looking at what the impact of that would be. Again, I think there's certainly a real possibility that we will see some sort of restriction on the number of credit hours that we will reimburse. I don't know what that will be at this point. That's still being discussed. How that might be implemented, if it does happen, is also kind of up for grabs right now. And certainly this is another area where we will be looking at a supplemental appropriation to try and make that program whole by the end of the fiscal year. Access Missouri was, the appropriation was reduced by $2.5 million. So we've had to reduce awards in that program as well. Right now they're set at 70%. That's how we describe those. It's the percentage of the statutory maximum. In terms of dollars, right now the estimated awards are $2,000 for a student that's going to a four-year institution, public or private, and state technical college, and $910 would be the award for students that are attending a public community college. We did extend the deadline to April 1st. Again, we've been trying really, really hard to get back to that point. We did make some changes when the early FAFSA was started, but last year we moved it to April 1st, and we've already made the move now. We're not going to back up from that, but we are still looking at the award amounts. While I hope to be able to hold those where they are, that's not a guarantee at this point. We're still looking at some numbers and trying to make some final decisions. Fast Track is the other program that's new. I know that isn't a big one for high school folks or high school counselors, but just to let you know, we got $3 million in funding in that program. The big news there is that because it includes some general revenue and other non-lottery funds, independent institutions will be able to participate in the program this year. Again, that wasn't possible last year, so that's really the big news there. Again, we are seeing a lot more demand for that program than we did last year. At this point, we've already received more applications, and the applications only been open a couple of weeks than we received for the entire fiscal year last year. And so I think we're going to see that program ramp up as we had originally envisioned in this coming year. The only other couple of things that I would mention on the financial aid side, the Ross Barnett program, those of you that are aware of that, funding was eliminated for that program. That used to be our only part-time program. Fast Track now kind of has taken its place, and so funding was eliminated for that program, and so it no longer exists or is no longer in operation. You may also have questions about the dual credit scholarships. There are actually two of those in statute. One is connected to the A+ program. The other one is more independent. Neither of those programs were funded, so there will not be any dual credit scholarships in the current fiscal year. We'll have to wait till next year and see whether there is an appropriation for that. Lastly, then I'll just touch on a couple of the accommodations that we made in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. One is we waived the GPA requirement for renewal for almost all of our programs. And so while most programs have a 2.5 grade point average, because of the disruption that occurred in the year and students going in the online programs that hadn't intended to or didn't sign up for that, if you will, we thought that was something that we needed to do. So satisfactory progress is all that's required for them to renew this fall. For most of them, it will go back to the 2.5 later in the year. And then for A+, we made a number of accommodations for the 2020 high school seniors. Again, waived that GPA requirement or changed it so that it was more flexible, waived the Algebra 1 and the end of course requirement as well. And we shortened the number of hours that are necessary for tutoring and mentoring to try and address those issues. The thing that I would say at this point, because we've gotten some questions about, well, are you going to do anything for the 2021 seniors? And we're certainly watching that situation, and we're willing to make changes as we need to. But at this point, it's still too early, I believe. Again, in many instances, schools are still making decisions about, are we going to go online? Are we going to go in person? And so as the year progresses and we learn more about that, we'll be watching that situation, and we'll be trying to make accommodations that we think are needed in order to assist those students. We don't want this disruption to undermine a student's ability to be able to qualify for any of the programs, but particularly the A+ program. So that's, I don't know how I did on time. Hopefully I'm pretty close. So, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, or if we have the time for that.
Leroy, this is Alex Miller. Thank you so much for that update. It did look like we had one question come in for you so far, and you hit on it, so you already answered it.
Okay, very good. Then thanks a lot. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to the department, our financial aid staff, or me if you have questions or need anything. We're there to help. So
perfect.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for such a thorough update. We really appreciate it. So, okay. Now on to our panel discussion. I'm going to leave this slide up for a moment to let Alex get started and to give our guest presenters the time to unmute themselves and get ready. Also want to share with you this slide that shows you the questions we asked them to think about and try to respond to. I do have one request for each of you while you are listening. If you have the chance, and if you can do it, and if you can't, it's okay. If you click on the top right corner of your picture on the Zoom, you can rename yourself. And if you, next to your name, could type in your region in the state, like a Kansas City or Northeast Missouri, because some people may not get into the breakouts right, and I'm going to have trouble knowing who's who and getting you into the right breakout if I don't have that information. And if you can't do it, it's okay. So that's my only request. All right, turning it over to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So we will be having our panel today. Thank you so much to everyone who is joining us. I have asked all of our panel to answer the questions in one swoop, so they'll go through and answer all the questions one by one. And I think if we could throw that slide back up of who will be on the panel today for me. So I have asked Kayla Klein to go first. So, you know, the first question really is kind of a loaded question. It has a lot of answers that will kind of come into it. So I do ask each of you, if you can, please answer all the questions to the best of your ability for your institution, but also just keeping in mind time frame. So Kayla, if you are ready, you can go ahead and start with question number 1, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I'm Kayla Klein. I do work at the University of Missouri, but I am also the Early Awareness Chair for MASFAP. So I will just say, if you guys have follow-up questions or need to get in touch with the school, I'm a great resource to help you get to those things. So just keep that in mind. Here at Mizzou, we are working with students daily to see where they're at, getting aid, all of that stuff. We understand students are making last-minute decisions and maybe switching schools to stay closer to home. So we're working through that process with them now. We are working through if there is any available aid, what options they have. We're doing Zoom meetings. We're also getting ready to open in person very soon. And so we're really working through that process with them and helping them understand what aid is available to them and then what that looks like. And we know these decisions are being made very quickly right now. And so we're making sure we're available to help them in any platform that we can. The next question, we have not moved to test optional at this point. I know schools are looking at every option possible. That includes us, but we have not made that decision at this point. If it does, trust me, it'll be out there for everyone to know very quickly if that ever happens. So we will communicate that and let people know. So are we planning on opening in person? Yes, we are. My mom is working very furiously. She is an assistant registrar here in charge of all the course schedule to get these kids back to campus. We will start our repopulation on August 3rd, which is Monday. So I'm in office. We're going to put up some plexiglass and do some fun things today and kind of get through that process and navigate. Our Res Life team, everybody has really worked hard. There's 135 people that sit on a panel and they came up with our Show Me Renewal Plan. It is public and you can look for it on the Mizzou webpage. It has every detail possible for our students, how they're returning to campus, what will be required of them, as well as what we're doing as offices and everything like that to make sure that everyone is safe on campus. There will be social distancing and masks. If you want a fun Truman mask, we've got them ready to go, or all the Mizzou things that you could want. So just keep in mind, if something changes, we will always communicate that to our students and faculty, and we're working with everybody on here. But we do have a wonderful Show Me Renewal Plan. So if you have specific questions when working with students and families, that's the best place to go. And it's listed on our Mizzou website.
Perfect. Thank you, Kayla. Just a quick reminder, if you do have questions that come up, please put them in the chat and I will make sure that we get them answered today if time permits. So our next person will be Rob Moore from Missouri State University.
Hi, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. I have so many technological problems, it makes me wonder if I'm actually tech savvy or not. But yeah, Rob Moore, Director of Financial Aid here at Missouri State University. I'll follow Kayla's lead and try to go as quickly as possible. So we do have emergency financial assistance funds in the forms of scholarships and grants for students who have such need. We have an emergency scholarship program through our foundation, which is donor funded. So the amounts that are available are contingent on the donations that we receive, but we do have funding available for students who have those kind of urgent life-altering events. We also have several degree completion grants and scholarships available. So students who are either nearing graduation or have had some sort of interruption to their financial aid that's preventing them from paying a bill and persisting in their degree. We do have that in the form of scholarships and grants that the students can apply for as well. We do allow incoming freshmen who do not meet scholarship eligibility criteria to appeal if they had an extenuating circumstance that prevented them from gaining eligibility for those institutional renewable scholarships. We have an appeal form on our website that they can complete and make the case. I can't imagine any high school seniors having an extenuating circumstance this year of why they might have not met those criteria, but we do encourage students to apply. That was a joke. Let's see, other aid unfortunately can't really be negotiated or appealed. We do encourage students, however, who have had significant impacts to their families' financial situations to submit that special circumstance form for professional judgment so we can evaluate them. And students are encouraged to meet with any one of my staff who hold meetings. They can request an appointment online. We do have the You Can Book Me tool, so students can request an appointment online that fits the counselor's schedule, and we host Zoom meetings with those students. And just for the safety of our staff and our students, we'll conduct Zoom meetings for the foreseeable future even once campus is reopened. We have moved to test optional at Missouri State University for admissions. However, students who are using the test optional option must still have a 3.25 cumulative GPA and meet the core curriculum requirements for admission. We're also accepting ACT and SAT super scores for both admissions and our institutional scholarships. So super scores will be used for the admission decisions, and we will accept it for institutional scholarships. We do have discussions on campus right now about extending the test dates that we'll use for institutional scholarships, but nothing is set in stone now. So the published test dates for scholarship consideration are as stands, and any changes will be published on our website and social media. We are planning to open in person on campus. We'll hold on-campus courses. The financial aid office is starting our reopening plan on Monday of next week, so we'll have staff in the office, and then it'll be a phased approach from there. If things do move online, first of all, my boss wanted me to make it clear it's our full intention to have full in-person classes. So that is the intention, that's the hope. We have worked hard over the summer to create more agility in our class schedules and courses to accommodate any kind of contingencies that may occur on campus. We do have a masking policy in place for all academic buildings and then other areas on campus as designated, so people will be required to wear masks. And we also have social distancing parameters in place for classrooms, capping occupancies to allow that distance. And then we have contingencies for outbreaks that might occur in the residence halls. And then last, any advice for seniors applying for fall 2021? Fill out the FAFSA. We're seeing the decline in FAFSA numbers, which is incredibly worrisome. So fill it out. It's a free form. Every financial aid administrator across the state is more than happy to help a student, regardless of what institution they ultimately land. The most important thing for the students to do is to fill it out every year, and fill it out as early as possible. Can't underscore that enough. So I will mute myself now unless there's any questions for me.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, I think Leroy and everyone from the department would also say, please push that FAFSA filing. And, you know, our FAFSA frenzies may look a little bit different, but the, you know, financial aid administrators are still going to be here to be able to help students through that free application. Perfect. Not seeing any questions for you, Rob, so we'll go ahead and move on to Dana Norris at MCC.
Everybody, I am Dana Norris. I am also your 2020 MASFAP president for the state, and I would like to thank you all for participating today and for pivoting from our usual and typical high school counselor workshops. So please take advantage of the sessions and the series that will be offered, especially for financial aid and helping you guys help your students. So at MCC, we are working frantically to get students the aid and assistance that they are needing for their education for the fall semester. We have our normal financial aid packages in which students, if they do have special circumstances or loss of income due to COVID, etc., that we will entertain appeals to make adjustments to see if they may be eligible after those adjustments. We are also offering several different emergency grant opportunities, both from the CARES Act funds as well as some foundation dollars from grants that we have received to help students with additional cost related to their cost of attendance. So for food, housing, transportation expenses as well. So please encourage students to come, ask questions, and not to be hesitant if they think they can't afford to come to school, because there are options and opportunities. We also have over 200 scholarships available for students. Is our institution doing optional testing? We are not. We are still requiring testing to be done. However, we do have remote testing options, and we have in-person testing hours. So our campuses are currently in what we are calling phase 2, in which we have limited services, and so office hours are available for financial aid, advising, payment, testing on all 5 of our campuses, Monday through Saturday by appointment. And then we have remote access to all of the same services online and through Zoom appointments as well. So students are able to be served either in person or remotely per their preference. We are not planning to have in-person courses for the fall semester, with the exception of our CTE and our courses that will require in-person lab time to be held. So our CTE classes, our allied health classes, our fire and police, in which a required in-person lab time is mandatory requirement for state certification. We will have those in person with social distancing, masks required. We are providing all of our students masks as well as new ID card systems so that they can scan in and out of our buildings. So everything else will be offered online and via virtual live streaming video instruction. So we are charting new territories here at MCC, and so it's kind of fun and exciting in light of everything that's going on. But those will be the only in-person courses that we will have. Let's see, what advice do I have for for you guys to tell your students? As it's already been stated, do your FAFSA and don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. We are here to help, whether remotely or in person, as I've said, and just, it's a scary time and uncertain for students, and everything that we can do to help, we are happy to do to help support you guys as well.
Thanks, Dana. All right, we have Denise Sebastian from Mineral Area College.
Hello, my name is Denise Sebastian. I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at MAC. Been in the Financial Aid Office for 31 years. So this is the first year with a pandemic, so that's been an experience. We are still processing aid frantically, like Dina said, for the fall 2020 semester. I think the most important thing for students to remember is to check their MAC email often. That's how we communicate with students, and we need them to be sure to follow up with any emails that we send. We are notifying the students by MAC email when their FAFSA has been processed, and they'll either get an award notification email or we'll let them know they're not eligible for a Pell Grant, but student loans are available. We do not award them automatically student loans, so they do have to fill out additional paperwork for that. But again, that information is sent to the student with their email telling them about that their FAFSA has been processed. With test scores, we only require test scores at MAC for placement purposes. However, for the fall 2020 semester, we are not requiring test scores. We are using multiple measures. So we will use high school GPA and other things like that to determine placement. We are offering on-campus placement testing with a limited capacity at this time. We will open in person on August 24th. At least that's the plan, unless the CDC and the local health department change our mind, but that's our plan, that we will be in person. Masks are required for all students, faculty, and staff. And social distancing will be in place in all areas on campus. If we close housing at any time during the semester, we will offer students a partial refund of those housing costs. However, if housing remains open, just because we go online with classes during the semester does not mean that we will close housing. So if housing remains open, we would not offer a refund at that point. My best advice is to counselors is to remind them to have students check their MAC email often, frequently. Even though they can complete the FAFSA after October 1st, which we encourage students to do, we will not retrieve those at MAC until the spring, so probably March. So just let those students know that they may not hear anything from the school until around March. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to retrieve that. So a lot of times the students expect an instant response from the college, and we will not retrieve those until March. Also, just remember that we are here to help you all, not just the students, but counselors and others as well. So please feel free to reach out. And I think someone else mentioned this, but just because a student's chosen another university, it doesn't mean you can't call me. We will be happy to help anyone and everyone with whatever questions they have.
Thank you, Denise. All right, so next on the list is Bryce Baumgartner. He is from Hannibal-LaGrange University.
Thank you, Alex. I always enjoy these new phone calls. They're kind of new to me, and I enjoy looking at people's backgrounds. And today, Kingsley has to be the winner because that is a spectacular chair, or whatever that background is. It looks way more comfortable than my office chair. So that's, for those of you who can see, you got to check that out. It's pretty spectacular. I'm from Hannibal-LaGrange University in Hannibal, Missouri, in the northeast portion of the state. Today in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, we were classified as a metro area, although there's only 17,000 people in town. And so we're a small four-year private liberal arts institution. So as of this fall, everything is going to be normal, just like everybody else. We're going to try to come back in seat, and the plan is to move in seat and continue through all the way through the fall. We are a smaller community, and so up until recently, we haven't had many cases, and so we're going to operate as normal as best we can. We will also have mask stations and sanitizing stations, and have implemented everything everyone else is talking about with caution and abundance of care for all of our students. If there is a concern, we will be happy to visit with you about that. The best advice you can say is just to contact our office, and we'll walk through all of the appropriate steps for review and seeing what we can do to help. Sometimes those can be met with institutional and foundational dollars, as has been mentioned. Other times there might be things that we can do through dollars that we have set aside. We have not moved to a test optional school, and so we will operate just as normal. We have decided to take super scores, and so that's the only really change that we've had with our testing policy. So for us, there'll be no implications or no impact on the student's award. We are going to go in person if we do have to make an adjustment, and that's about our 5th or 6th option. We try to put in other contingency plans in place to not do that. If we do, the institution will make that assessment depending on the time frame, and as Denise said, if housing remains open, there'll be some challenges there as well. We did make an adjustment last spring, but I'm not sure, and with the ever-changing landscape that it is now, it's hard to decide what will happen in the future, but last semester we did make an adjustments. And then the last one is, what guidance do I have? I spent a little bit of time on the admissions side before I moved over to the financial aid side, and financial aid is significantly different in that we are a group of people who try to help out as much as possible because we all deal with the same things. And so if your student has a question, please give us a call. MASFAP is a great organization that has a lot of resources. I'd encourage you to just reach out to the financial aid office, even in your community, where they can give you some good guidance and good counsel on what might be the best steps forward for your student. Turn it back over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Bryce. Appreciate that. So seeing no questions yet in the chat, we'll just continue to move along. We have Jamie from Lindenwood University.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Jamie Shaheen. I am the Financial Aid Director at Lindenwood University. I have been here just a little over a year. I was actually born and raised in Missouri, but left for the East Coast for about 15 years. So really excited to be back and to be with you all today. At Lindenwood, of course, financial aid is definitely available still by way of the FAFSA. This year, when the pandemic started, we actually, as an institution, created an emergency scholarship fund called the Lions Relief Scholarship, which was really cool because it was funded by alumni, staff, and then just the campus community and the community around St. Charles. So we raised money to help our students with both tuition and any expenses that they had as a result of the pandemic. The university itself is extremely committed to helping these students during the challenging times, especially our new students who are coming in. They've never been through this process before. So what we do is we encourage them to chat with their admissions counselor first, submit an appeal, and that appeal actually comes to me then, and we review for whether we can maximize federal aid via professional judgment, or if we can get the student some extra need-based awards from Lindenwood itself. Lindenwood went test optional starting with our fall 2019 class, so this is actually our 3rd cycle. So while the admissions office will assess GPA taking a holistic approach, they are going to be extremely cognizant of spring grades. Since there was a disruption to the modality of study, they can kind of understand where students may have some challenges there. So they will be looking at GPA in a holistic way. We, like everyone else, or most everyone else, we are planning to open on August 24th. We have 3 to 4 various committees that have been working to ensure a safe opening. We do have plexiglass in the classrooms. Each room is actually equipped with technology so that we can kind of go to a hybrid model. So students don't actually have to set foot on campus if they choose not to. All students and staff and faculty are required to also wear a mask. So we are excited to open and very hopeful. Should anything change, of course, we will communicate that to the campus community. In the spring, we did offer housing refunds, and we would do so again should housing close, but we have no intention of that happening, or so we hope. And then just my advice is kind of like what everyone else said, is communicate with us. I can't tell you how many students I work with, even right now, at the end of July, saying, I just had no idea that this option was available. And it's totally understandable. So we want people to reach out to us, students, families, counselors. We are here to help, and we have a lot of different ways that maybe are not published or known that we can help students. So that's our main goal.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, so moving down the list, but last but certainly not least, we have Chris from UMSL.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, so a lot of what I'm going to say has been said already, so I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible just in case we do have questions. But just like all the other schools, we're still packaging for fall, and we'll do so as new students come in. And we encourage, if anything is going on, reach out to us, and we'll try and do whatever we can through our special circumstance appeal process and try and make sure students are in the best situation going forward. We also have our scholarship appeal process. So if students feel as if their grades or the ACT were affected during that last semester when everything was moved remote, we do have a process to appeal that. So that form can be found on our website. So definitely point your students that direction. As for going, test optional. I believe there is going to be an announcement released next week that we are going to do some sort of test optional policy for students. I'm not going to talk on the admission side of that because I don't want to say something that's going to get me in trouble. So just look for that next week. For the scholarship side, I can't talk on that. We will be offering test optional scholarships. For our academic scholarship, is going to start at if a student has a 3.5 without an ACT score, and then our university scholarship at a 3.8 GPA without ACT score. Like I said, that'll be announced next week, so keep an eye out for that. We, just like most other schools, are planning on being in person through blended classes and then online classes where need be. Similar to MAC, if we are shutting down housing, we will offer refunds, but if a student elects to leave housing, then we will not offer a refund at that point. And then just advice, that's been said a lot, but can't say it enough. Check your email, and then do not be afraid to ask for help, because that's what we're here for. And we, no matter what the stigma is, we do have the best interest of students at heart, and we'll do what we can to make sure we help them. So turn that back over to you, Alex.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. So at this time, there are nothing in the chat, so I think we can move forward. If you have questions that you can think of or want to ask, you can send them to me privately or just put them in the chat and we'll get those answered for you. But I think I'll turn it over to Laura, and we'll get ready for our breakouts.
Thank you, Alex and panelists. We really appreciate it. So now we're going to, it's up to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope that was fun to do a little breakout with your area. I know we felt like it was way too quick. So we just wanted to also today in the presentation give a little bit of a FAFSA reminder. We know that 21 is getting ready to start for most of us, but we're already starting to look for the future, which blows a lot of people's mind, but we're always working a year in advance. So here we go, 21-22. You know, FAFSA opens on October 1 of 2020 for 21-22. So your seniors getting ready to, start their rising senior, is going to be looking at you all and saying, what do I do for college? Well, that's really, should be their first step. So October 1, the application is due to open. We haven't heard of any pushbacks or anything like that just yet, but we may, depending on the pandemic and what the department has been able to do. So your 21 seniors, of course, will use 2019 tax information, to file their 21-22 FAFSA. Perfect. And just a quick reminder, this has been in place now for, I think 3 or 4 years at least, but FSA IDs, so for those of you who are newer, just wanted to give you guys a reminder, when you're helping your students through this process, remind them to use an email outside of their school email, just because most of the school emails are shut off as soon as they graduate. And so we want to make sure that they still can access that. The parent that will be signing the FAFSA and the student will need an FSA ID, so we want to make sure that both parties sign up for that. And it's not too soon. So, you know, when they get back to you guys in August or early September, that could be one of the first things you guys have your seniors doing, is going ahead and filling out their FSA ID. And the department has a great tool that they have on their website to use, where you guys could use a one-sheeter to send to your students. It gives an area for them to put their user ID and their password and kind of store that away, because they will need that information as long as we have FSA IDs, which I'm hoping for the next couple years at least. So any questions about FAFSAs? You guys can just throw those in the chat. Looks like we have one come in about helping students with verification paperwork. I'll read through that as Laura goes on, and I can answer it on the side, if that's okay.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so for every workshop, we like to have a chance to give announcements, some things we all should know about. And Michelle Larashi, who is involved in planning PDIs and also a counselor in Pattonville involved in MOACAC, wanted to give us an update on the new StriveScan college and career fairs. Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Laura. Hi, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about this new Show Me My Future event that we are planning. So with COVID and so many unknowns with school, Missouri ACAC made the decision to cancel all of our fall regional college fairs across the state. And many high schools are also informing us that they are canceling their individual fairs. If you're looking for updates on those things, please check out the MOACAC website. You can see updates on college fairs as well as high school visits. And high schools, you can add your updates there as well. So instead, MOACAC is partnering with StriveScan to host what we're calling Show Me My Future. And this will be a 4-week virtual college and career series of events that we're very excited about, because it will serve the entire state. So all Missouri students, all Missouri counselors will be able to attend these sessions for free. And we're very thankful already to the many colleges on this call today who have already signed on to offer a session. So briefly, this opportunity will begin September 13th, and the sessions will be on Sunday afternoons, evenings, and Monday through Thursday evenings. They will be 45-minute virtual sessions, and they will be recorded so that counselors and students can come back to these sessions through the entire fall semester and use them for content and for their college and career planning. The 4 weeks will include a combination of what we're calling college knowledge sessions, and these would be things like writing a college essay, or one of my favorite titles is finding your dream school from the comfort of your couch, and things like that. Schools from different parts of the country. We have the Big East schools, we have Florida schools. We'll also have individual sessions that are hosted by an individual college. And then we are really trying to broaden this experience to include non-college options. So we have the electrical contractors of Missouri who will be hosting a session. We have technical schools, we have community colleges. We're hoping that we'll get some military and other career programs so that students will have a choice and have resources regardless of what their plans are after high school. You can find all of this information on the MOACAC website underneath the College Fair tab. Whether you're a high school counselor and you want to know more for your students, or if you're a college or an organization that would like to participate, you can find all the information there. We will have the schedule live and posted for counselors and students beginning August 20th. So right now we are just in the process of filling those sessions. If you have questions, you can reach out to me as well. So thank you so much, Laura, for letting me have a few minutes today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the update, Michelle. We did have a question if students in the Illinois side of the St. Louis Metro can participate in the MOACAC fair?
They can. You know, there's no way that we can prevent students from registering, so the more the merrier, but we, again, we want to try to have something out there for everyone. And so we appreciate anyone's help in, if you're in Southwest Missouri or Northwest Missouri and you know of local schools, career programs that you'd like to get to participate, please direct them to the website and encourage them to participate.
Great. Thank you so much. So, you know, going online has its downsides to be sure, but then the upside is it's the all-come kind of scenario, right? The more the merrier, as Michelle said. And we get creative and innovative in how we start to present things, including, you know, a little Earth, Wind, and Fire on a Friday afternoon Zoom and some breakout sessions that sometimes work and sometimes didn't. And Bryce Baumgartner, you stuck with me. So here are some links to some things that I thought might be of interest to you. We do have a resource page on our website that I try to keep as up to date as possible. If ever you have links or resources that you see online that you think others would like to know about, it could be webinars, it could just be resource pages, send them my way and I'm happy to keep that updated. I did share with you, and then this graphic is from the Chronicle of Higher Education was tracking the college reopening plans. They've now moved it over to Davidson College, so this data is from their website. And that's a link to their dashboard for national colleges. Gentlemen, there was a great webinar this week on anti-racist school counseling that had I known about it before, 30 minutes before it started, I would have gotten it out so you could see it, but it's on YouTube and I highly recommend it. Here's how you can reach all of us involved in planning today's workshop. I put in the chat the link to the evaluation for today's workshop, and hopefully you also received an email while we were online today. Please complete it. It's so important so that we know how we did and where we can improve. And as always, it is just wonderful to be spending time with you, and thank you so much for all that you do for students. If you want to do a quick checkout, just so we checked in with one other person, you can do a quick checkout with the whole group in chat. Always nice to know how you're feeling at the end of this session together, hopefully inspired, informed, and ready for school to start in a few weeks. So thank you guys so much.